All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty intense thought experiment. And look, this isn't about some monster or a classic alien invasion. No, this is about something way closer to home. It's a systematic stress test, a way to really poke at our society's deepest vulnerabilities and all the things we just take for granted.
So, let's start with the big question that's going to hang over everything we talk about today. What happens when the very thing a society is most proud of, its incredible technology, its sense of total control, what happens when that suddenly becomes the thing that brings it all crashing down? Keep that question in your mind, because it's the key to this whole scenario.
Okay, so let's meet our catalyst. It's called the Metamorph. Now, it's really important to get this straight. This is not a villain. It's a consequence. A better way to think about it is like biological feedback. It's a mirror that a system has created for itself, a system that has time and time again picked control and efficiency over, well, pretty much everything else. You could say the bill is finally coming due.
So how would a system like that react to something it can't understand? Well, pretty predictably, right? The very first response, phase 1, is all about control and containment. It's about using the full weight of the government's power to get a lid on this thing before the public even has a clue what's going on.
And there's a clear playbook for this. It happens in 3 steps. First thing you do, you classify everything. You frame it as a massive national security threat. Step 2, you get the lawyers involved to redefine what these beings even are. Are they assets, biohazards, literally anything but people who might have rights? And finally, step 3, you chop up the responsibility. You give a piece to the military, a piece to intelligence, a piece to private contractors. That way, no one is ever really truly accountable for the whole picture.
And you have to listen to the language they'd use. Nobody in power would call this coercion or imprisonment. Oh no, as this quote just nails, it's all reframed as care. It's such a brilliant and cynical piece of political spin, right? It lets you manage how the public sees things while pushing any real moral debate way down the road.
And here's exactly how they'd sell it to us. They'd create an adoption narrative. I mean, it's politically perfect, isn't it? The beings look innocent, almost childlike, so you can justify becoming their guardians. And just like that, you sidestep all those messy questions about rights or personhood. It's really a masterclass in using the language of compassion to hide a system of absolute control.
But here's the twist. That control, it's a total illusion. Because these beings, they have a very specific and unique target. And this is the moment where the system's greatest strength, its complete and total reliance on advanced tech, becomes its one fatal weakness. This is where the collapse begins.
It starts right here. The beings seem to instinctively target our most advanced infrastructure, and the very first domino to fall? The power grid. All those tech-heavy areas are suddenly plunged into darkness.
And then, the backbone of our entire digital world follows. Think about it. All the data centers, the cloud servers, the places where we keep all our knowledge, our money, our communication, they just start blinking out.
Next up, the brains of the whole operation. All the AI systems that run logistics, financial markets, you name it, they start to fail. The automation that makes modern life possible just stops.
And finally, the state's ultimate ace in the hole. Its monopoly on force. Advanced drones, surveillance networks, sophisticated weapons platforms, the very tools of control are suddenly useless. The shield is completely broken.
So what does all this lead to? It leads to this huge political crisis, something we're calling the Great Inversion. Because look, the urban centers, the places with all the tech and all the power, they are facing total catastrophic failure. But the rural, low-tech communities, the places that were maybe seen as backwards or disposable, well, they're suddenly proving to be way more resilient. And for the people in charge, that reversal of fortune is completely politically intolerable.
So when the system is faced with a disaster of its own creation, what does it do? It does what it always does best. It finds someone else to blame. Suddenly, it wasn't our fault, it was a foreign adversary, or maybe eco-terrorists. Helping these beings, that's now a crime. If you resist their destruction, you're branded as anti-patriotic. And all the suffering you're going through? Oh, that's just a tragedy. It's inevitable. It's definitely not a direct consequence of the choices we made.
And all of that, it brings us to the real heart of the issue. Because the real threat here isn't the broken machines. It's not the failing power grids. The true danger is something much deeper. It strikes at the very legitimacy of the state itself.
This right here is the whole point. The destruction is really just a symptom. The real crisis is that the metamorphs don't just break our technology, they completely shatter the story we tell about ourselves. You see, they expose these three huge fundamental contradictions that a system like this just cannot survive. First, our technology, the thing that was supposed to be our savior, was the very first thing to go. Second, these childlike beings, these things we thought we could control and use as assets, they are systematically outthinking us at every turn. And third, our so-called humane progress created a world where the only people who were spared are the ones who were already marginalized and powerless. And when your core beliefs are proven to be lies, your right to rule just evaporates.
So where do we go from here? With the whole system broken, its very legitimacy in tatters, we're left with three plausible and very, very different futures.
Okay, so path number one is authoritarian retrenchment. This is where the state just doubles down. It uses brute force to wipe out the beings and rolls back civil liberties for everyone else, all in the name of stability. But really, it's just long-term stagnation. Path two is what you might call technological de-escalation, basically a forced retreat. We have to abandon our obsession with hyper-automation and actually learn to coexist. And then there's path three, full-on systemic collapse. Federal authority just dissolves, and from the wreckage, new parallel societies start to emerge.
Ultimately, this whole scenario, this whole thought experiment, it forces us to look in the mirror and ask a pretty brutal question for our own time. What happens when our capabilities just completely outpace our character? What happens when we build intelligence faster than we build wisdom? When we build power faster than accountability? And when we build systems of control faster than our own ethics can keep up?
Because the answer, it turns out, isn't some threat from the outside. It's not an invasion. The answer is reversal. The system turning in on itself, becoming its own end. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.